Today, Bitcoin jumps to a new record. The SEC charges Unicoin and the company's top executives with an alleged $100 million securities fraud. And Eric Chen of Injective reacts to Bitcoin's new all-time high. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Tanea McKeel. Bitcoin jumping to a new record this morning of $109,500, breaking its January record. As of noon Eastern, the cryptocurrency was still trading above $109,000. Ether also climbed nearly 3.5% to $2,568, and Solana rose more than 3% to $172. Bitcoin's price has been steadily rising this month, and cumulative inflows into spot Bitcoin ETFs surpassed $40 billion last week, only seeing 2 days of outflows so far this month. Investors have also been expecting upcoming catalysts, including regulatory updates, as well as corporate treasury investments to drive Bitcoin prices higher. Earlier this week, the Senate voted to advance legislation that would create the first regulatory framework in the U.S. for stablecoins, a key sector of the crypto market. And also this month, Coinbase joined the S&P 500 benchmark stock index, which Wall Street has praised as a watershed moment for the crypto industry. Okay, let's talk about the top stories. The SEC filed charges against the crypto firm Unicoin and 3 of its top executives, including the current CEO, Alex Konanihan, alleging they violated securities laws and raising more than $100 million from thousands of investors for its token. Yesterday, the agency accused the executives of providing false and misleading statements in an offering of certificates that purportedly conveyed rights to receive Unicoin tokens and an offering of Unicoin's common stock. The SEC alleges Unicoin claimed its token was backed by real-world assets, including an international portfolio of valuable real estate holdings, but overvalued the properties. The SEC also said that the majority of the company's sales of rights certificates were fake. Konanihan spoke with us this afternoon to respond to the allegations.
Last night's announcement of a lawsuit against Unicoin is yet another step in ongoing lawfare waged by the SEC against Unicoin and its shareholders during last 12 months. They've been pressuring us to avoid going public on crypto and stock exchanges, and I believe it's yet another gross abuse of power to which the SEC engaged during its unconstitutional war on crypto.
Next, crypto lender Genesis is suing its parent company, Digital Currency Group, alleging fraudulent transfers of crypto and U.S. dollars. Earlier this week, Genesis filed 2 lawsuits against DCG and executives, one in Delaware and another in bankruptcy court for the Southern District of New York. Across both lawsuits, Genesis alleges plaintiffs owe the company more than $3.2 billion. Genesis, which filed for bankruptcy in 2023, claims in its New York lawsuit that insider defendants knew in November of 2022 that the company was on the brink of collapse and withdrew their assets, fully recovering their crypto and dollars. We reached out to Digital Currency Group and didn't hear back right away. Finally, just as the U.S. Senate advanced the Genius Act stablecoin regulation bill this week, Hong Kong also just took a major step by passing its own stablecoin bill. According to the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, once the law is implemented, fiat-referenced stablecoin issuers in Hong Kong or any issuers of Hong Kong dollar-backed stablecoins across the world will need to acquire a license from the agency. Issuers would also have to meet specific requirements relating to things such as reserve management and AML compliance. Earlier this morning, a Hong Kong Legislative Council member said major institutions should be able to apply for licenses by the end of the year. All right, for our main story, I spoke with Eric Chen, co-founder of Injective, a blockchain built for finance. He weighed in on Bitcoin's new record and discussed his platform surpassing $2 billion in annualized trading volume, according to Masari. All right, Eric, thanks so much for joining me on Crypto World today. A new all-time high for Bitcoin this morning, very exciting, and I do want to start there. Your reaction to it, not a particularly big move. It's been interesting to see this kind of healthy, steady climb over the course of the past month. What do you make of the new high today?
I think honestly, it's still a very, very exciting moment for us as an industry. But compared to the previous time where we hit past, $100,000, it was a lot less euphoria and a lot more about maturity. Because right now there's fundamentals to follow. People aren't as ecstatic about it, mainly because people understand that the fundamental paradigm shift that's going on within the Bitcoin world and the overall crypto world. They think that generally it's more than well deserved to reclaim the ATH spot.
Can you talk a little bit more about those fundamentals? For so long, that was such a criticism of Bitcoin coming from quote traditional investors? Is that there weren't fundamentals or they didn't know which ones to follow? What exactly are you talking about?
I mean, honestly, I've been in the space for quite a long time now. When I first joined the space, I think when I was 19 years old, um, one of my vision for, or one of my hopes for this entire industry and for Bitcoin and for all the crypto assets out there is to be embraced and adopted and recognized by, like nation states and governments. And not only did we, achieve that roughly like a few years ago with the support from El Salvador. The pace of adoption amongst nation states and with especially with the passing of the Genius Act, it's just been extremely unprecedented. And I think this is truly like a fundamental kind of like paradigm shift in terms of like how the world treats crypto. It's completely unignorable. It's completely undeniable. It's almost like like a U.S. prioritized asset class now, and it's only going to stay that way and continue to expand further as more and more parts of the states or parts of major financial institutions alongside national government treasuries to continue to kind of like be in this very very exciting race to adopt more Bitcoin, stack more Sats, etc.
And what is your outlook for Bitcoin from here? It is, of course, still vulnerable to big major dips in the stock market, but it, can also sort of be free of that. We've seen it trade so closely with gold for so many of the past few weeks. And we have all of these regulatory tailwinds and potential catalysts that you're starting to see investors kind of start to front run. The long-term picture for Bitcoin is usually a rosy one, but in the short to medium term, what do you see happening from here before we get to our next major run?
Yeah, I think it's actually very interesting because Bitcoin has been trying to find its place in terms of the correlation, kind of like factors, and this means that it's trying to figure out whether it's more correlated to macro indicator and macro factors. As we've seen how Bitcoin tends to react first, especially during like after market hours on any type of like macroeconomic indicators, etc. Far ahead of the stock markets. And also, of course, like Bitcoin quite frequently also correlates with the stock markets or gold. So I think it's currently in this process where the street and all the traders and all the investors are coming together and slowly trying to understand what is the best type of like correlation or the role of this asset plays in the global portfolio. And so I think right now, as Bitcoin adoption grows further and further, and as market cap of Bitcoin grows further and further, you're going to see kind of like a more kind of solidifying of the kind of expected correlation Bitcoin plays within the global financial market.
Um, Flipping a little bit to I assets. So let's put Bitcoin down. I assets did more than $2 billion in annualized trading volume in the past month alone. I want to hear about that first. As a reminder for our audience, tell us what I assets is.
Yeah, of course. Just a reminder, iAssets are on-chain stocks like Tesla, Apple, Nvidia listed directly on top of the Injective blockchain. They basically let you trade major public companies in a completely decentralized way, which means that the users can trade these assets 24/7 in countries outside of US and applicable jurisdictions without any type of a middleman like a broker.
All right, and then tell me about this milestone that you've hit. What are you seeing in the investing trends? What has changed recently about the demand?
I think what's really exciting here is that IaaS are continuing to see extremely strong user demand. This kind of reflects like a broader trend of TradFi users and TradFi investors merging with blockchain technology and truly adopting it. Like you mentioned before, it did more than 2 billion in terms of annualized trading volume, and all this happened on top of Helix, which is a premier decentralized exchange on top of Injective with fully on-chain trading, and it all happened because of the for the very first time. Helix is the first decentralized platform to list all these Max 7 stocks, which is a very major milestone powered by Injective's blockchain's capability and also for the entire DeFi world.
And then final thing for me, where is the overall trend of the tokenization of real world assets or RWAs going from here? It tends to be a thing that we hear a lot about when the price action in Bitcoin and other major cryptos isn't really doing much. But it does seem like it is here to stay, and there is new demand for it from institutions in a very real way. So what does the adoption look like right now, and what will be driving that over the next year?
So I think real world assets, or RWAs, in general, is basically a very, very steadily growing, extremely sticky type of infrastructure for the TradFi to adopt, or the most important touch point for a lot of traditional financial institutions to adopt the blockchain world. So, for example, we just heard of Robinhood's recent SEC filing to become a registered broker-dealer for like blockchain-based assets, which is really, really huge to see a major player recognize the transformative potential of tokenization and blockchain for U.S. equities and the broader financial system. So it means that a lot of these institutions and major platforms like Robinhood are seeing blockchain rails as the future of asset trading, and they're quite frequently trying to position to offer tokenized securities and tokenized assets, and betting on a world where public equities and digital assets exist side by side, or even blurring the line of what makes it a security and what makes it a crypto asset.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today. We'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll see you then.